So the first question is, why do you pee? There's two big reasons why you urinate. Why do you urinate? Oh, good waste. So you got waste products building up. You got to get rid of those. And so keep it that in mind. We'll do that first. Waste removal. Now, in the lab, you had to memorize the I think 8 primary first constituents, like 8 or 9 primary constituents of urine. Memorize those in order. They're in the lab handout, they're in order. So water, obviously, first one, then urea, and on and on and on. So you'll notice in the list of urinary waste stuff, nitrogenous waste, urea, and that kind of thing pops up quick, really high on the list. It's because this is the primary component. And what this is, I mentioned before, what you do is your body is protein-based, okay? Your DNA is information how to assemble proteins. You kind of talking about that. So not only are you taking in amino acids, but as the amino acids get old, you break them and throw them out because you don't need them anymore. When you break an amino acid, every single amino acid has at least one nitrogen. And when that nitrogen comes off, it forms ammonia. And so you get pure ammonia in your blood. And then, like I said, there's an organ that converts that ammonia to urea. What organ converts ammonia to urea? Liver. Okay, liver stuff. Liver converts ammonia to urea, and then your kidneys pee out the urea. So that's the big one. So here, this is just kind of the biochemical pathway. But I want you to remember, liver converts ammonia to urea. Urea is considered not as toxic. It's still bad. You don't want a lot of this in you. But it's stable enough to circulate around a bit. And then your kidneys pee it out. Very cool. Okay, so that's the primary reason sort of why you increase questions there. Lots of ways. And this is, of course, urea is not the only thing. There's a lot of stuff in there. You saw phosphates and sulfates and all those things too as well. Okay, another thing is excessive amounts of stuff. Okay, so you've got waste product, and then you've got good stuff that you just don't need, so you sort of get rid of it. So you should be drinking extra water, and then you should just pee it out, and that helps your kidneys sort of filter out junk. You should be taking in more ions than you need, and more vitamins than you need, and you just pee them out. That's fine. That's the way it works. Okay, this is just a cool graph. I won't test this graph, but it shows you where you get your water from and where the water goes. So most of your water you should be drinking, about almost 2 liters a day. And then a lot of it comes just from your food, mushy bananas and apples and stuff. And then a little bit, if you remember, mitochondria take in oxygen, sugar, and they produce ATP, CO2, and water. So you make about 200 mils of water a day. That ain't bad. And then the way you get rid of it is you pee it out. So what you drink in, you mostly pee out. And then you sweat and evaporate a little bit. And then also just your breath, you're losing some. And then feces got a little bit just to get poo out. There you go. Very cool. Such a neat graph. Any questions there? Good. Okay, so you got another thing urine's good for, but as humans we don't talk about it as much. What do a lot of animals use pee for that we don't do much? Oh my goodness, yes, territory marking. Oh, and you can do this, it works. If you got like, you got deer or something eat your bushes, wait till your neighbors are asleep or somewhere else, and then anoint your bushes with some pickle, and what'll happen is the deer won't eat it. Because they come up there and they don't know what it is, but they don't like it. They know there's something there and they don't want to eat it. They even sell online, if you're into this, you can buy buckets of like tiger pee and lion pee, and you put that on your bushes, nothing will touch it. Because everyone in the world knows a lion's scary, all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool. This is a fun thing to do. Once again, if you take kids to a zoo. This, I think I saw, it was either Houston or Audubon, I forget which one. But the rhino lined up backwards. There was a whole kids group there, the whole school group. And I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And I took my wife, I said, stand a little bit to the side. And I didn't get my camera out in time. But that little bad boy let it rip, and he got the first couple rows, and the kids went everywhere screaming, and it was awesome. Because they can pee a good 6 or 7 feet, and it is impressive. So they were just saying, essentially just saying, you're all mine now. You know, tag grip. Very cool. So I will test you on marking territory with pee, but it's very cool. Let's see if it can be done. So mainly no waste and excess. You kind of got the urine. Okay, next we'll talk about what the kidneys, or what the plumbing looks like outside the kidneys, and then we'll talk about the kidneys themselves. And this is going to, goodness gracious, going to totally parallel what you did in lab, and then I'll just give you more of the physiology end of it. But if you had labs last week, this will make all the sense in the world. So let's take a look. First you have the renal artery. Okay, what you'll notice here is this percentage is crazy. 25% of your blood. Okay, so a quarter of the blood in the aorta is just for the kidney. Now that tells you two things that you should start thinking about. One is, you're filtering 25% of your blood in any given second, which is amazing. That's a lot of blood to go through. Just filter. The other thing this actually reflects is the kidneys are very, very, very expensive to run, and you need that much blood just to feed the kidneys. So not only are they filtering 25%, they're actually using 25% of your oxygen. They're burning through it that quick. They're amazing guys. There's only one other organ that rivals this number. What other organ do you think gets 25% of blood and uses up 25% of your ATP? Oh, good. Lungs, a good guess.
Liver.
Even more than the heart, the brain. So your brain and kidneys are on the same level, and then everything else gets table scraps. So your brain and kidneys use 50% of the blood in the aorta. They use 50% of that blood, and everybody else gets what's left. So these are very expensive. And human kidneys aren't that big. They're like, each one's about that big. Little bitty fellas. And then you got your brain, and then everything else eat what's left. So I'll mention this again, because it's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Me lose brain? Uh-oh.
I said name the other organ, and you already did. Okay, blood delivers oxygen, also being filtered. This is what I mentioned before. This is the first time we've seen this. Traditionally, what we've seen is you got an organ, you got blood coming in to give the organ oxygen, and you have another blood supply for the organ to do its job, filter it, pump it, whatever. And then you have a third that just comes out. This is what we've seen in the heart, we saw this in the liver, we saw this in the lungs, over and over and over. Now with the kidneys, this is the only example, really, pretty much, of this kind of deal, where you've got one blood supply coming in, and you've got two fluids coming out. So this is a little bit unusual. What you do essentially is take your blood and split it, and you wind up with venous blood, and you wind up with urine, so you get two fluids. So blood delivers oxygen, also being filtered. The renal vein then just drains out what's left, what's been cleaned up. Very cool. And that goes to the IVC. What does IVC stand for? If you're vena cava. Very nice. Pretty cool. So like I said, it's different than we've seen before. Very cool. Because when I was a kid, when I was a little puppy, I wondered how in the world could you eat and stick food and liquid in the same tube, and then it comes out two different tubes. That used to blow my mind. And it took me 20 years of college, and now I know. It's like, oh, okay. Kidneys are grabbing the fluid out of the blood. Okay, and then the intestines is just a straight tube. That makes sense. Yeah. Any questions on the vasculature? Not so bad. All right, good. Okay, then you have what's called a ureter. Okay, you get typically one ureter per kidney. This person's a freak, so they got two, which is very cool. So that's nice. They got a backup. You get one clogged, you get the back door one. But the ureter delivered kidney, urine for the kidney. One thing to keep in mind is everything pretty much is smooth muscle when you get involuntary. And so your ureters are also smooth muscle. And so they're doing that peristalsis all the time. So there you go. Oh, they're located retroperitoneal. That's a term you kind of had in lab. Retroperitoneal means they're just behind the peritoneum membrane. So down here in my abdominal cavity, I've got the peritoneum, which is vestroparietal. And then behind all that, I have spaces where I keep things that are too important to slap around with everyone else. Because out here I got, intestines and stomach all slapping, having fun. But then I've got these very delicate kidneys. Lots of blood vessels, tons of capillaries. So I make the kidneys sit out behind everyone else, behind the peritoneum. And so they're back there with the spinal cord and other things you don't want to screw up. So yeah, it's retroperitoneal. And there you go. Oh, this is cool too. This is a concept. Here's your bladder, okay, and then you've got your kidneys up here, slightly larger than actual size, if you get the idea, and these are the ureters. Now you would think to save materials, you just run your ureters right at the top. Makes total sense. You'd save time, but you don't. What you do is the ureters actually come way down and enter way down here. So your question is, why are the ureters coming way down there? Oh, this is very cool. Okay. One thing it does is as the bladder expands, you're not getting a lot of slop and slack in your ureters, so that's a good thing. But what's even more clever is there's no sphincter here. Okay? And if urine squirts back in your kidneys, you blow your kidneys out. They fail. That's what's up. So if I had the tubes coming in out at the top, and I had to pee real bad, and you went, hey, Bill, you gotta pee? What would happen is the urine would squirt back up, blowing kidneys out. Oops, that was up. But what's cool is I have the ureters come all the way down in the back, and so the more full the bladder gets, the more it kind of rolls backwards and pinches off the ureters. So no matter how full your bladder gets, you can't squirt urine back in your kidneys because it pinches it off more and more and more and more and more. And you might think, well, if it's all pinched off and stuff, how do I get more urine in there? And the answer there is the ureters exhibit peristalsis. They do the whole milking deal. And so they're constantly forcing urine into your bladder, but it can't squirt back. So this is just a great idea. And it works in the cat. Grab the cat's bladder, pick it up, and you'll see the ureters come way underneath it and then insert. They don't go on the top. It's just a clever way of doing it, especially, you don't have to put a sphincter and innervate it and all that crap. Just make it roll backwards. Pretty neat. Any question on that? Oh. And some people say, well, can you hold your feet long enough to blow your bladder up inside your body? The easy answer is no. The tube down at the bottom here will get to the bit, the urethra will leak in it. It doesn't work. You can try, but good luck. If you had a full bladder and you trained a horse to kick you just right or something like that, you could probably rupture, but it'd be hard because it's a very tough muscular sac. Not easy to pop.
Yeah, but that's not good to hold.
Well, it's a whole other reason it's not good to hold because bacteria, as soon as you finish urinating, bacteria start going upstream again. They would do. And so the more often you urinate, the less chance the bacteria have of getting into your kidneys or bladder and causing infection. So that's why they say don't hold it. Yeah, it's the infection deal. Yep. Yeah, but you don't get to feel a little bit now. Okay, so the bladder, we've seen this 1,000 times before. This is just something, it's a common trend in AP1, that's for AP2. With any given organ, you're going to see a mucosal layer on the inside, or technically outside, but the inner lining. Then you're going to have a muscular layer and then a supportive layer. So same thing here. So 3-layer wall, inner mucus, muscle, and then supportive. So that won't, actually, that I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to ask you this test, but technically speaking, the inside of your urinary bladder is the surface of your body because you don't have to cross a membrane to get to it. You can actually put a camera up in there and look around and not cut anything. I went to one of those, it's not a surgery, it's called a procedure, but I went to one of those procedures where this dude had kidney stones, so they got the hose out, it was way bigger than I thought it'd be, and they put it up his junk, and when all in the bladder looked around, I was like, wow, this is really cool. Very nice. Yeah. So the peristalsis, I kind of mentioned it. The peristalsis keeps the urine going. That way you can stand on your head and still make pee-pee because it's an active sort of milking process. Very cool. Any questions on the mighty ureter? What do you want to know about ureter? Good. Then we get the mighty urethra. So you wonder, how do you remember ureter versus urethra? Oh, I got an easy way to do it. There is one only, in the whole world, there's only one urethra Franklin. Dun, dun, dun. And she deserves your RESPCE. So that's how I remember urethra, is I got one urethra. Yep, so urethra delivers urine from the bladder to the outside body. There you go. And what we have here, we've seen this before, you have a double sphincter. The internal sphincter is kind of just the end of the bladder itself. Okay, so this is, the whole thing's smooth muscle, so obviously this is smooth muscle right here. Then you've got the external sphincter. That's this muscular skeletal wall. This is the one, since it's skeletal, you learned how to control when you were hopefully 1 or 2 or so, and now you only urinate when you want to. So that's very nice. Where do we see this before? In the anus. Oh my goodness. This is identical to what we saw in the anus. Inner smooth, outer skeletal. You can control when you need to. Next bone extends. Yep. Very cool system. Now you notice the males is much longer, females is much shorter. This actually, something interesting happened. So in the female, like it shows here, this is the urethra, that's it. From here to here, you're done. In the male, oh my goodness, look at that. Aha. Who has a higher instance of urinary tract infection? Females. This is why. This is the physical difference. When a female finishes urinating, the bacteria go, woohoo, this is going to be awesome. And then she pees again, hopefully within a matter of time. But if she doesn't urinate soon enough, uh-oh, they get in and they're attacking. Whereas the male, woohoo, oh, come on. And then, woohoo, oh, dang it. And so males can go a lot longer without a threat of urinary tract infection because it's so far away. Yeah. So males, 20 centimeters or so from the bladder to the outside environment. It's very cool. Good. Males is even more interesting because the male urethra has 2 functions. It carries urine as well as sperm. Oh my goodness, that's so peculiar. So look at this. You're going to learn this week. The male reproductive system has 3 glands. There's this pair right here. There's that one there, and there's these little bitty fellows right there. Okay? And those are all for reproductive purposes. They have nothing to do with urine production whatsoever. And then on top of that, you've got not only urine, but also sperm. Very cool. There's an engineering joke. It's the only engineering joke I know, I think. But you can tell that God's not an engineer because he put a recreational facility next to a sewage treatment plant. You can tell that difference. What do you read? Also, mucosal layer, also considered outside the body because you don't have to cross the membrane to get into it. All those things apply. All right. Any urethra questions? Very cool. Only one urethra question. Good. This is a little bit side note because you already have a shark. Here's a shark. Oh my goodness. And this little fish. Look at you, little fish. Which fish would you rather swim with, the shark or the little baby fish? Shark. I absolutely go with the shark. Oh, good. So you know who this is. This little fella right here is evil. What these fish do is they like to swim upstream, and when they find a current of water, they have these fins that they'll stick into the rocks and stuff to anchor themselves, and that way they can just sit there and just filter feed. That's what they do for a living. Okay? Now, what they do to humans is, if you're sitting there urinating in water, they'll sense that current, and they'll go up inside the tube, this flow, and they'll take their little fins and go, they got spikes, and they just anchor themselves forever. And now you have a little fish in your junk, and it's going to all back up. Bad stuff happens. And you can't take it out without surgery, so it's going to be a bad day. So yeah, I buy you any day you want with a shark.
That's not in America though, isn't it?
It's in the Amazon. You gotta go south. Yeah, so we don't have them, but they're known to sew up urethras. So there you go. Yeah, it's kind of cool. People do it like, oh, shark, you think shark? Yeah. Yeah, females or males doesn't matter. Yeah. Now, if you're wearing like breeches while you're feet in the water, you're okay because they're not going to swim inside your case. But if people go in there just and drop your drawers or whatever, you're going to get your little fish.
Okay.
Yeah, not fun. Good question there.
That's gross.
Keep your pants on, you're going to pee in the Okay, now we talk about the bladder itself. Very nice. Okay, much like the gallbladder, the urinary bladder is only for storage. The urinary bladder adds nothing to urine and takes away nothing from urine. That's why you can have a totally stuffed, gotta-pee bladder, and you're still thirsty. And you could be dehydrated, because once it's in the bladder, it's absolutely useless to you. You can't get access to it. It's gone. It's a waste. And that's why I mentioned before, too. Some people, when they get freaked out, they pee themselves. And you think, well, I thought urinary production slowed down when you get freaked out. Yes, it does. The kidneys will slow down. But if there's any urine in the bladder, that's already been there. So that'll be sometimes evacuated for odd reasons indeed. But there you go, Rugae, no surprise. What other organ had Rugae? Oh, good, stomach. Very nice. This is a really cool picture you may not realize. Anybody know what that is? Oh. Stem cell research. Okay, stem cell research in its infancy. The idea is I could take a cell from you and grow an organ from your cells, and then what would happen is I can put that organ in you and you won't reject it because it's yours. Okay, this has already been done in several hundred patients. What they do in some cases is some people don't have urinary bladders because of deformations or they cancer have removed. What they can do right now is they can take one of your cells and do a little stem cell research tricky deal and grow an entire urinary bladder and put it back in. And so these are the first stem cell grown genetically engineered organs that were put in people that absolutely work 100%. This is a urinary bladder growing. This is just food, this is a nutrient solution, and then you have this plastic form, and you just put the stem cell on it and feed it with the nutrient solution, and the cell just overgrows the form, and there you go, poof, got a bladder. And they're putting them in people, they work. It's very cool. So it's kind of neat, we're actually doing that.
That's just a one cell
You take one cell and grow it, yeah. So you take the cell, you regress it to an undifferentiated cell, and then you hit it with some chemicals that make it divide, and it just grows over. You got yourself an organ. So bladders are easy because it's a muscle wall, some connective tissue. So we got those. That's kind of nice. Getting a heart or a lung or something, that's the holy grail. This is cool. They're working.
What about the heart?
The heart, they got a heart now that beats. I could grow a heart from you with one cell, and it'll actually beat. The only thing it does not have is blood vessels growing through it. That's the trick. They haven't figured that one out yet. They can absolutely make hearts beat. That's nothing. It's a very cool process. Yeah, good question there. Oh.
Then what do? They remove the form?
Well,
And then
in you, what they do is they actually plant this form and then inoculate the cells inside your body, and it would grow, and then you pull the form out. Yeah, so they pull the plastic out. It works very well. Very cool. There you go. Oh my goodness, 3-layer walls. This is no surprise. You've seen this 1,000 times. The inside layer, of course, is mucus. Just makes total sense. Okay, the middle layer, oh, muscle. My goodness, I wouldn't have suspected that. And then the outside is going to be connective tissue. Your neck. Very simple organ. Yeah.
There's no submucosa?
There is, yeah. There's mucosal, submucosal. Yeah, there is. It's not as extensive as the intestines because the plumbing. You don't need that much plumbing, but there's considered a little bit of layer. Yeah, that's a good point. But in general, 3 layers mostly. Yep. So any questions? Oh, behold the mighty bladder. Good, good. Oh, this is a side note because it's so cool. This is documented in some of the older references. Some Native American tribes, they want to attack the other tribe, but they want to get some sleep. So how do you attack another tribe and still get some sleep? What they would do is they take their warriors and they would get as close to the tribe as possible, and then everyone in this tribe would drink tons of water, as much as they could fit in, and then you go to sleep. And it's pointless, so everyone gets a good nap, 2, maybe 3 hours, and then what's going to happen is somebody's got to get up and pee. And so when they get up to pee, they wake up everybody else, they pee, and they attack. So it's like this cool way of making an alarm clock to make sure you get up in time, to kill somebody. Very cool. So I was tempted that, but oh, what a clever idea. So next time you're on vacation and you gotta get up early in the morning, man, just drink a lot of water. You'll get up. Hopefully. Yeah, so you might do that. Oh, okay, but there you go. Very cool. Okay, let's look at the kidney itself. So first I'll tell you about the big stuff. And then we'll get into the smaller stuff. Oh man, the physiology of kidneys will blow your way. This is what kidneys typically look like in their position. You see this little wizard hat on top? What's that little wizard hat on top?
Adrenal gland.
Oh, good, adrenal gland, good. Well, there's your kidney. Typically, the right kidney is slightly lower. Why is the right kidney lower in humans? What's displacing it? Oh, the liver. The liver. Remember, the liver kind of has a tail to it, and that displaces the right kidney lower. So you typically see that. Some people just take it to extreme. They can't help themselves. And what's good here is this shows how the adrenal gland isn't physically fused to the kidney. They're actually separate. They just happen to always be together in humans. You could actually have one in your pelvic cavity. And some people have wicked looking, crazy, smiley face kidney. That's just variability. You understand they don't work so good, but yeah, it's pretty impressive. I have a friend that has 4 kidneys, which is really cool. Now, she's got 4 kidneys that don't work very well. Each one of them, questionable. If she only had 2 of them, she'd probably have problems. But since she's got 4 that work pretty good, she's okay. And she didn't know. She had this MRI. And like, holy crap, you got 4 kidneys. And so her kidneys are famous. They're like books and stuff. And they're very cool. Yeah. But they're pretty neat. Never know. So you get a look at it. Okay, let's look at the big stuff. The kidneys are physically retroperitoneal. Same idea. You learned that in lab. They're behind everything. And the main point is there. These bad boys are just almost solid capillary beds. And so the slightest direct hit to them, they're going to start bleeding internally and your stomach suck. So you're going to put them up there as close as you can, and you're also going to wrap a little bit of ribs around them so they're kind of protected, and then just hope they don't get hit. But boy, they go out quick. They're a mess. So retroperitoneal, and they're surrounded by fat. What's the fat for? Oh good, protection from what?
Shock.
Oh good, they're shock absorbers as well as insulators, okay? Your body likes to have a little fat blanket because that allows the enzymes to work at a constant temperature. If you don't have enough fat in you, your enzyme function gets variable too much. The temperature is varied too much and makes it messed up. So it helps stabilize the enzymes as well as absorb some shocks. You can take a hit and not be peeing blood. Yeah. There's a side note to this. I think I mentioned in lab. Here's your kidney, and you have this fat capsule around it. Okay, there's disorders such as the most prominent would be anorexia. So if you have anorexia, what happens is you just stop eating pretty much, or you eat very little. And your body's going to absorb every stitch of fat you've got. So you're going to go to pretty much 1% body fat. Now when you get down to just about nothing body fat-wise, your body's going to start looking for fat anywhere it can find it. And so one of the places it will find it is this capsule around the kidneys. And so your body will absorb this capsule. And normally in a healthy human, you'd never absorb that capsule. That's not considered stored energy. That's deliberately there for shock absorption. If you absorb that capsule, what will happen is the kidneys inside this space, the retroperitoneal space sort of, if you absorb that fat capsule, the entire kidney will drop. It'll actually physically fall. And when it drops, not real far, just a little bit, but when it drops, it'll pinch off the ureter, and then the person's got kidneys in it. So with anorexia, one of the ways that people die from that is kidney failure, which you'd think, well, why kidney failure? You know, they're starving. It's because the kidneys drop, pitches it off. So you'll see that sometimes clinically. It's just something to look out for. Yeah, so surrounded by fat, the door stop. Yeah.
Is there any way to fix that?
That's a good question. I've never read any reports of like people who had anorexia and then survived it and got counseled through it. I don't know if that goes back or not. It's a good question. There's a renal capsule. There's a fibrous capsule. You could go in there and sew that to the wall and stick it. That'd be some surgery to get good, but it would work. So that might be part of it. I'd have to look into that and see if it redeposits. Because once the fat's gone, they essentially die at that point. So there wouldn't be any recovery if it's all gone. It's sort of over. Yeah.
Now, like when people urinate blood, like
Mhm.
after like they get into like a boxing match or something, is that the capillaries
Absolutely.
getting blown
Yeah.
out in the kidneys, basically?
There's 2 million capillary beds, definable capillary beds. So you have the slightest hit. When they blow out, that blood will just, normally the blood's getting filtered coming back out again. That blood will just start dumping in the ureter, fills up the bladder, you see the blood, absolutely. Yeah, that's where it comes. So yeah, feeding blood is considered nature's sign to slow down. And you need to find out why. Because it could be a kidney stone in the ureter or urethra. It'll rip it open and bleed that way. So that's like, okay, that's good blood. But if it's the kidneys blowing out, ooh, something's going on. I want to get a look at that. Yep, there's all kinds of reasons.
So the adipose tissue was for two things, shock absorber and what?
And it stabilizes temperature. It's an insulated blanket.
Temperature to take care of enzymes?
It lets the enzymes work efficiently. Because enzymes are designed to work at a particular temperature pH. So if your temperature is fluctuating everywhere, the enzyme activity fluctuates. You don't want that. So certain organs, you wrap them in fat and keep the enzyme working perfectly. Yeah, so exactly. Yeah, keep that perfect temperature. So here's your kidney again. Okay, so let's take a look at this thing. In lab, you hopefully looked this over so you kind of got an idea already. Here it is. Here's your kidney. We see this nomenclature, we see the 1,000 times pretty much. The outside of the kidney is the cortex. Okay, when we saw the brain, the outside of the brain was called cortex. When we looked at the adrenal gland, the outside adrenal gland was called cortex. So it's just a general term, it's sort of the outer layer. Okay, so the outer region of the kidney's cortex, it contains these magical things called nephrons. Oh, you will grow to hate nephrons and then love them eventually because they're the most complex thing on the next test, most likely. They're like, oh my goodness. I'll explain a little bit how they work, but oh gracious me, they're so cool. You'll like them eventually. You'll hate them.
On what, the lab test or this test?
The lab is only going to be identify a nephron and the parts of it. Lecture, I'll get the physiology a little bit, just a hint of it, but it's, oh my goodness. And the physiology makes total sense. It's the nomenclature, the words they use. Oh crap, there's some big words. I'll have to give you some really big ones. But you don't have to spell them, you just got to recognize them. Yeah, you're going to see some big words with it. Yeah, big question about cortex. Not so bad. And what's cool is when you look at a kidney, what you got are all these like triangle looking things. You've got these spaces and all. So everything cool looks like it happens towards the inside. And it looks kind of boring towards the outside. But what's interesting is, on a microscopic level, this little inside part is where all the cool stuff takes place. That's where you physically have those things listed as a nephron. So I'll explain nephrons in a bit, but oh, that's where all the cool stuff happens is cortex. Yep. And then the inner part's called medulla. You got all the like noticeable visual stuff in the medulla, but it's not as cool as the cortex, believe me. So that's medulla. And medulla is the same term we saw with the adrenal gland, the inner part, the part that releases epinephrine, norepinephrine, that's the medulla. And then in the brain, you had the brain stem, which was part of medulla. So it's the same idea. So it just means kind of the inner part. No, not so bad. Ooh. So in the medulla, you have pyramids. We'll talk about these in a bit. Very clever how it's built. Kidneys are awesome. Any questions thus far? Maybe not too bad. Okay, what's happening is, in the kidneys, these nephrons, every single individual nephron makes a little tiny drop of pee-pee. Okay, they're making little tiny bits of urine, very small amount. Okay, so this whole stack of nephrons here, they're all making little drops of pee-pee. Now what happens is that little tiny drop of urine is going to go into a tube, a common tube. say you have a whole bunch of nephrons lined up on a common tube, and they're all dropping their urine into that common tube, okay? That common tube then enters the medulla. And then next to that, you'll have a whole nother stack of nephrons releasing little tiny drops of pee-pee, and they'll all drain into their own little duct that collects it. And then next to that, you'll have another column that dumps into its own collecting duct. So you've got all these ducts coming from all these different columns of nephrons. And so the architecture, what you see, the gross anatomy reflects the microscopic architecture. What you see is, when you look at what are called pyramids, they look striated. They look like they have these lines. Those lines are simply just all the collecting ducts, gathering all the urine from all these nephrons, 2 billion nephrons. So it's a fantastic plumbing system. What is it, Fred?
Can I ask,
Yeah.
is the medulla the same as the pyramids? Or
Oh, good. The medulla is the region. And in the medulla, you have pyramids and columns. So yeah, that's a good point. So, yeah, medulla is just the area. So I'd say this is a room, but in the room we have desks and carpet. Same idea. So medulla is the general region. Cool. Any question about medulla cortex thus far? Oh boy. Okay, good. Also, there's columns, but don't worry about columns for lecture, because that's the lab thing. This is just an anatomical thing. Okay, now we'll look at the little stuff. This is when it gets interesting. All right. So any question about the anatomy? Not so bad. That makes sense. All right. Okay, let's look at the little stuff. Okay. When you talk about the heart, what you say is it's 4 chambers, 4 valves. You're done. Okay, when you talk about the lungs, you say, okay, there's alveoli. You're done. Understand an alveolus, you got it. Okay, when you talk about the kidneys, all you have to do is understand one nephron. Now, if you boil down the nephron to the simplest form, what you're going to have, I'll give you a description here in a second. But nephron filter unit, like I said, is about 1 million kidneys. That's pretty cool. They actually make urine. So understand a nephron, you understand the whole deal. What a nephron is made of is, here it is. 2 capillary beds, a hollow ball, and a tube. That's what you're going for. So let's draw that. But that's fun. What you have is blood's coming in to your kidneys. And when it gets to a single nephron, you're going to have a little capillary bed. Okay? So every single one of these little rounded deals I have is going to have a capillary bed inside. This is why you don't want to get punched in your kidneys. You got a lot of capillary beds. Okay? What you have now is a philosophy. And this is the philosophy of the kidney. There's a great analogy. My favorite analogy is go trick-or-treating. Okay? Get a whole bag of candy. Oh my goodness. And you don't care what they're putting in, you just want more candy, so you go to the house fast as possible. Now, in that bag of candy, you're going to have some sweet Snicker bars and Milky Ways. Now, you're also going to have pretzels and apples and crap. You know, what are they thinking? Oh, holy crap, this is not nice pretzels and apples, but you've got them. So, what you could do is you could say, I know what I want. I want Snickers and Milky Way. And you look through your bag and grab out all the Snickers and Milky Way and then throw the bag away. Okay, but you may have missed a Reese's cup. You must consider this. So you didn't think about Reese's cups, but they were in there and you just missed it. Oh, you got screwed, man. And so what would be better is take your entire bag of candy, regardless of what's in it, and dump the whole thing. Dump it all on the table. And then once you dump everything, you can more quickly sort through it. Okay? And what would be good then, once you dump it, is just take out what you know is nasty, take out the nasty and split it. So apples and pretzels over here, Snickers and Milky Way here. Oh, Reese's, oh my goodness. Separate Twix, oh yummy. And then, you get that funky foreign candy that nobody knows what it is. It goes in the trash, don't know what that is. Okay, and then split it out. And it's much better if you do it that way. Dump it first. Dump everything. Don't care what if it's good or bad. That's what the kidneys do. Okay? What the kidneys do at this level is they dump everything, good and bad. They don't care what it is, they just dump it. So, if you remember back, I said you have a standing order not to dump glucose. You're not allowed to pee out glucose. Well, at this capillary bed, glucose is dumped. But you're going to take it right back so you're okay. And I'll explain that better too. So, you dump everything little. That's the first capillary bed. Now, you can't just let this little stuff just float around the body. So what you do is you put like a sphere around it. And that catches all the little stuff, so it's not just floating away. So this is you dumping the candy, and that's your table, catching all the stuff. And then all the stuff then just starts to go through this tube. Just starts to float along, based on the pressure and all that. Okay, let's say the green stuff is good and the purple stuff is bad. What you do is you start deliberately taking back the good stuff. Okay, if I deliberately take back the good stuff, what you're going to notice is in my solution, I'm going to leave the bad stuff. So on my table of candy, if I take my Snickers and Milky Way and Twix, I'm going to have more and more pretzels and apples. Ah, clever, clever. And this is a really good idea, okay? If you had kidneys where you ran the blood through and all you did was take out the bad, okay? If all you did was just work just to remove bad stuff, the problem with that is there are bad things that your body doesn't know what they are. So if you only remove the bad stuff, there's some stuff you'd miss. You wouldn't know what it is. You'd actually keep it. You wouldn't want it. So antibiotics are classic. Your body has no idea what antibiotics are. But because of this system, because you deliberately just dump them without knowing what they are, and you deliberately don't take them back, you can filter out antibiotics very quickly. Now, antibiotics are good for you, but your body doesn't know that. So with this mechanism, you dump waste products, but you also dump things you don't know what they are. Just get rid of it. It's a great way to filter. And you only take back what you want. You only get back glucose and amino acids and stuff that you need.
So what is it that takes back everything that's good? It's not.
There's exchangers, there's pumps, there's channels, there's all kinds of stuff lining these tubes. So that's a good point. The ways you take stuff back is crazy varied. You have what's called diffusion, and you've got active transport, you have facilitated diffusion. There's a bunch of stuff on it. ATP pumps, the whole thing. Sodium is run by pumps. There's lots of oxygen burned up in the pump. Yep, tons of time. Okay, so what I have here is I got a capillary bed, a ball, and a tube and another capillary bed, I think is all I have here. So, I have two? Okay, I do have two. Okay, so let me just draw the tube, and we'll get more details on it later. What the tube does is kind of loop around and fold back on itself. And I'll explain that a little better too. And so that's my tube. It just comes out and goes around loops. And the second capillary bed is very clever. I've got all this good stuff coming out. Okay, all the stuff I want to keep. Well, how am I actually going to get it back in my body? Because all I've done is just pulled it out of the urine. How am I going to get it back in my blood? That's where the second capillary bed comes in. The second capillary bed wraps around the whole entire tube and then leaves the whole area. So this is what a nephron looks like. And I went through the physiology relatively quickly. I'm going to go through it again much more slowly with a lot more detail. But that's the main idea. There's your two capillary beds, little one, big one. Here's your ball, and there's the tube. That's a nephron.
So is that the afferent and the other one's the efferent?
This would be your afferent coming in, and this would be efferent. So ultimately, this comes from your renal artery, and ultimately, this will eventually go to your renal vein. Eventually. Now, you couldn't even switch the color at this point, because now the blood is purified, but it's also low in oxygen by this point, because all these cells are using up the oxygen. So they'll eventually go. Yep. So that's the most basic way of thinking about an nephron. Hollow ball, two capillary beds, and a tube. Just like saying 4 chambers, 4 valves. Cool. Any nephron questions so far? Two. So you got the two little germs. No. Any other questions? Oh boy. And see, that's the concept. Dump it all, take back what you want, and then let the bad stuff just ride it out. And so eventually, the bad stuff will stay in here, and eventually, you just pee it out. So this end over here is going to go into a collecting duct that's getting urine from a whole bunch of other nephrons, and they're all going to just dump in here, and you're going to have a high concentration of nastiness. But all your green good stuff you got back first, so you're okay. All right, now we'll go through. Any questions on that? All right, let's get some vocabulary here. The first capillary bed, everything about the nephron is sort of related to the first capillary. The first capillary is called the glomerulus. Okay, this is an actual glomerulus in cross section. Ah, lovely. What's that inner ball? So this guy here, glomerulus. That is the first place where the blood is being filtered. Okay, so at that level, you got the little stuff jumping out. bad. As you see here, it's got 1 per nephron, I kind of showed you there. There's pressure in there, but I'm not going to test you this number. I'm just letting you know it's slightly positive pressure. And that positive pressure is what makes the stuff come out. Now, this is actually very critical. If the pressure gets any higher than that, it'll top that glomerulus, you start feeding blood. So that was up. So your kidneys absolutely do not want your blood pressure to get too high. High blood pressure pops these out. Second thing causes kidney failure in the United States. Okay? But see, another interesting thing is, if the pressure gets too low, this will actually come to a stop. And if this comes to a stop, the whole thing kind of falls apart and your kidney fails anyway. So it's interesting, your kidneys have to have a perfect pressure. They don't want too much, not too little. And so that's why a lot of your blood pressure in your body is dictated by your kidneys, because the kidneys are really caring about it. Your lungs don't really care, within a certain range, your lungs are good with it. Kidneys, no, there is no range. You got to keep a really tight rein on it or you're going to blow them out. Or fail them either way. Yep, so there's your little bit of pressure. Not good. Okay, this is getting back to what I mentioned before. They're leaky, crazy leaky. And the reason they're so crazy, stinky leaky is, like I said, you're dumping everything deliberately. Now, the only thing not dumped is big stuff. So anything good-sized protein and above, you should not be blowing out through here. You should never see big proteins in your urine or blood cells or stuff like that. That means you got too much of a leak. It should be just enough of a leak. There's a big protein, I think I mentioned before, it's called albumin. It's big. And it's a big protein you make all the time. But it's so big, it's not supposed to come out here. And so, if they suspect kidney problems in you, they'll give you this bucket and you're supposed to pee in it for like 12 hours, 24 hours. Then you bring this big old bucket of pee back and they check it for albumin. Another thing, they're looking for big proteins. If they see big proteins in this big bucket, you have leaky kidney. And there's something going on, blood pressure or disease or something. That shouldn't really go on protein. Any question of the mighty glomerulus? First capsule, okay? Now the thing that catches all this stuff is called the glomerular capsule, which used to be called Bowen's capsule when I was a puppy, but they changed it. So, glomerular capsule. All it is a hollow ball. What it needs to do, though, is it needs to let out little stuff, and it needs to be slightly selective. So what's cool is there's actually cells that make up the glomerular capsule, and these cells aren't like you think. They're not like little balled-up cells. They actually have little projections. They're like little fake feet. They call pseudopodia, which means fake feet. And these little fake feet deal interlock. Okay? And then that wraps around the glomerulus, and so that makes a physical barrier, so big stuff can't get out. So even if something big comes out of the capillary, it still can't get through these little feet deals. And those are called, what was I say? They're called podocytes. I'll list those in a second. But this is a nice picture. Look at that. This is one of those freeze fractures. Glomerulus is too small to dissect, so what you do is you freeze it and smash it. And they just happen to pop the top off the glomerular capsule. And so what you see is, oh, look at that. You've got the capsule collecting, and you have this lovely glomerulus inside. Oh, my goodness, this is beautiful. I like that. But yeah, take a good catch of it. This is not a picture. That's a catch. Any question about that? So dump and catch. Yeah.
On the lab handout, I'm just a little confused, because wasn't there the glomerular capillary, the glomerulus?
The glomerulus is the glomerular capillary, it's the same thing.
So, but that was like in parentheses as another word, I think.
Yeah, because I want you to
It's
know
actually the same thing.
the glomerulus is a capillary bed.
Okay.
Absolutely. So they just named that capillary bed, they just named the glomerulus, but it's a 100% cartridge capillary bed. The only real unique thing about it is it's crazy leaky, more leaky than other capillary beds, even more, because you need to offload so much stuff so quickly. Yeah. If you think about how efficient the kidneys are, okay, they cost 25% of your energy. So 25% of the ATP, 25% of the air I just breathed in is just for kidneys, and they're fairly too small. But what's so fascinating about that is I'm filtering my blood at that rate, which is really, really fast rate. But if my kidneys completely fail, I have to get dialysis about every 48 hours. So what that means is you have to filter your blood every 48 hours, but you are filtering it 25% every moment of your life. So you're way overdoing kidneys. We're way overcranked with the kidney end. But see, the idea is if something toxic does get in me, I'll flush it quick. I'm good. I can flush I take antibiotics, I need to take another one in 4 hours, because I peed all that out already. So it's nice to have overbill. We're kind of running them a little too high, sort of. Well, we're running them excessively high, but if you need them, it's good to have them. But it's kind of cool how much overclocked they are.
Well, how do those Z tanks work then? You know how you get that massive dose?
Yeah.
And if you can, you know, and you take a little bit smaller dose and you see less.
You know, it's a more aggressive antibiotic, yeah. So it's, you're trying to, you know, you can, like amoxicillin is like candy pretty much. It kind of nags the bacteria, kind of makes them want to leave. You know, come on, you shouldn't be here. Come on, bacteria, you're making me sick. And so eventually the bacteria might leave and they're not down here. But you get something like that, it's a smack in the face, a big, heavy smack in the face over a small period of time. But it's so toxic, it's supposed to just flush it out, is the hope. So it's like taking a baseball bat versus just tickling somebody to make them leave your house. Baseball bat, they're going to leave a lot quicker. But you got to make sure you use the right bat. Wrong
So
bat.
it's toxic to the bacteria, but it's actually toxic to your body too?
The Z-Pack? No. It's just that toxic to bacteria. But then you get that whole bacterial thing that sometimes it's a bad idea to kill bacteria because you might wipe out the good ones and then you're screwed anyway. But yeah, they seem to be fairly effective. But they're still not antiviral. No, so anyway.
That's kind of lost. Can you
Okay.
describe the job functions of the glomerulus and the
The job of the glomerulus is simply just to be leaky. That's it. All it's supposed to do. Just leak. Tremendous amount. Leak everything little. Nothing big, just little. Leak little, and the capsule's just into the cap. So it's not blowing out everywhere. That's all we've done at this point. So all we've done is leaked it. And now that fluid that just came out, you do not want to urinate that fluid. Because that fluid has a huge mixture of good and bad. So that's nowhere near being urine yet. It's just fluid coming out. Okay, so there's the podocytes I mentioned. Look how lovely these things are. Look at that. So here's the cell body, and there's all these little projections sticking out with interlocking toes. Man, they're pretty tough. And this is artificially colored to make it even prettier, but still, look at that. So there's a cell body, cell body. So these are individual cells, and they deliberately lock their little feet together, and that way big stuff can't leave. Very cool. So pod just means foot, and then sites and cell. So they're foot cells. And there's other things involved with this filtering. There's not only a size filter, there's also electromagnetic, or electrofilter, not magnetic, but electric filter. There's all kinds of things. Not really. These are more passive than that. These guys are just physically saying, no, you can't come out. Where the hepatocytes are deliberately working to take things out and shift them around. The podocytes, I see kind of what you're thinking.
I'm thinking like the pancreas is made of seed cells. The
Yeah.
liver is made of has.
Okay, I was thinking that way.
Yes.
The glomerular capsule is made of podocytes. Yeah, that's a good thing about it. That's a good thing. Yeah, so the inner lining of the glomerular capsule is podocytes. Now the outside isn't, but the inner lining that actually touches the capillary is podocytes. Yep. But I was thinking it's a difference between like a chef versus a bouncer. Okay, a chef is constantly taking stuff and moving stuff and mixing things and making things and getting them back and oh my goodness. Whereas a bouncer just says, no, you can't come in. No, you're too young, you're too old, or yeah, you can go in. So the podocytes are like bouncers. They're just physically saying yes or no. Where the hepatocytes are doing all this magnificent storing and releasing, yeah, a lot more function to it. Yeah. Oh. So there you go. Any other questions about the old
The wall, the initial is the glomerular capsule.
precisely? Mhm. They're 100% part of the capsule. And they're just deliberately wrapped around the glomerulus, the capillary bed, and they're just kind of holding on, keeping stuff from leaking out. Keeping the big stuff from leaking out. Yep, there you go. And so the rest of it is just called the renal tubule. What you want to do is, the renal tubule exists mainly to get the good stuff back out, leave the bad stuff, and then connect to the collecting duct. And so this whole thing is renal tubule. And since this stuff in the renal tubule is a mixture of both good and bad, you can't call it urine yet. So you can't classically call it urine. So this is just called filtrate. And I'll get to that a little better too. But that's the filter. The fluid in the tubule is filtrate. So it's not considered classically urine until it hits the collecting duct. All right, I'll get more into filtrate later too. Good question. The renal tubule. There you go. We're going to get to this later too. But this is how it all works. the permeability, what goes through it, the things that go through the tube are different depending where you are on the tube. Okay, so some things can go through the tube here, and they can't go through here, and that makes the nephron do its job. And I'll explain that better later, but it was very cool. It's clever how it works. Within the
So there's going to be no proximal distal convoluted
Oh, yeah,
tubules?
that's
The whole thing is just,
the whole thing is called red tubule,
yeah.
and I think I have. Oh no, I have those two. Yeah, so there's proximal distal. Yeah. But this is tell you what the filtrate is. The filtrate is just the fluid in the tube, and what you're trying to do is you're going from a large volume and mixture of good and bad. You're trying to go to a smaller volume with just bad stuff. So you're like filtering. That's the deal. So you need to not only concentrate the bad stuff, you need to get your water back, because it takes a lot of water to float the stuff into the tube. And a lot of that water you need, or you're going to pass out and die. So you're going to spend a lot of time getting the water back, which is dumb. It's kind of ironic that that's the way it works. Yeah. So here's your three sections of the tubule itself. Like I said, everything is named based on the glomerulus. So this is the glomerulus. That's the glomerular capsule. So this stretch of tube right here is considered next to the glomerulus, so they call it proximal tube, because it's right next to it. So this here is proximal tubule, because it's close proximity to the glomerulus. Now the loop is just called the nephron loop. Now when I was a kid, they used to call it loop and Henry, but they got away from that. So you can just call it nephron loop. Now I can give away the secret here. They didn't know what the loop was for when they first looked at kidneys. No idea, because of physiology, the equipment. But what they did is they solved the mystery by looking at comparative anatomy. Oh, comparative anatomy rock. So what they did was they looked at the nephrons of fish. Turns out fish don't have them. Then they looked at the nephrons of desert animals like hamsters and camels and stuff. Their nephron loops are crazy long. Like, oh my goodness, look at that nephron loop. Okay, and our nephron loops are right in between. So what that tells you is the nephron, the loop itself, is for recycling water. And I'll explain how that works better later, but that's the whole point of the loop. It's just a water recycler. The longer the loop, the more water you get. That's why, like, hamsters don't have to ever drink. There's no need to drink, because they recycle water so well from their food that they get all the water they need from just eating. So they're fine without water, whereas you got to drink for your dad, because your loop's not that big. And then the last part, since it's far away, well, this is actually ironic. Okay, this last part here, from the filtrate's perspective, the filtrate, the liquid, feels like it's really far away from the nephron. So that's what they call it, the distal. The distal tubule. Now, anatomically, you see right here, the distal tubule is right next to the nephron. You're supposed to ignore that. That's one of the good kinds of anatomy you're not supposed to think about. But that's the distal tubule. That's your last shot before it actually becomes urine. Most significant thing about the distal tubule is that's where all the hormones have effects. So we talked about before aldosterone and mineralocorticoid type stuff. That's where mineralocorticoids have an effect in the distal tubule, and I'll explain that later too. So that's where you adjust how much urine you're producing. Lots of urine that's really clear, or less urine that's really dark. There you go. Any questions on the renal tubule? We haven't got the physiology yet. Oh, it gets better. And there's something, like I said, there's a big word I want to give it. It's going to be mean, but it's like a shot. Just take it and it's all up and it'll be okay later. There it is. Bum, 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 bum. Look at that. Boy, name your dog that word. Have you ever glomerular apparatus? What this is, if you juxtapose something, you overlay. Okay? So they decided to use juxtapose because it sounds big and fancy. Glomerular, you already know, it's referred to glomerulus. Apparatus just means it's a big working collection. What you have is this nephron is making urine. Okay? And it does a good job. But sometimes you drink more water than you normally do. Sometimes you drink less water. Sometimes you take antibiotics. Sometimes you eat a bag of chips with a whole bunch of sodium in it. Okay, so this nephron needs to check its quality and also regulate itself. So how in the world are you going to regulate a single nephron? I mean, these things are microscopic. how in the world do you make this thing efficient in all situations? What you have is you have built-in quality control, okay? And the way you do it is, there's a group of cells, right, there's a group of cells right here, kind of right where the distal tubule comes close to the glomerulus. That group of cells right there, all it does is looks at the urine. And it says, is it cloudy or not? Is it too cloudy? Not cloudy enough? All it's is quality control for the urine itself. That's all it's doing. Okay? And what it does is, the way it has effect is it works through another group of cells that are located right here. Okay? Collectively, these two groups of cells together are called the juxtaglomerular apparatus.
So what is the name of this stuff? I mean, that's what.
The whole entire bunch are just called the juxtaglomerular apparatus. Now, specifically, I'm going to tell you this macula densa juxtaglomerular cell, but I'll get to that in a second. I want you to get the concept. This whole thing is geared towards quality control. This group looks at the peak. That group, see, this group is wrapped around the blood vessels, so it adjusts blood pressure. So, if this group of cells sees that the urine is too clear, okay, it's going to say, whoa, there's hardly anything in this, which it would assume there's not enough stuff in it. So what this group of cells will do is, if it's not enough stuff, if the urine's too clear, this group of cells will tell this group, open up, vasodilate, and that way you get more blood, which gives you more pressure, which gives you more stuff. Okay? If the urine looks too cloudy, like, oh boy, this is really getting cloudy and goopy, this is not good, that means there's too much stuff in it. So this group of cells will tell this group of cells, hey, constrict down, make it tighter, and that way you get less blood, which gives you less pressure, less stuff. So blood equals pressure equals stuff in this case.
Is that what happens when you drink alcohol and you?
Oh, alcohol shuts down the blood, the water channels here, and so blood. Alcohol shuts down the water channels here, so you start just peeing water like a dentist. So a good point. It actually affects this distal tubule, not really so much these guys. But you're getting that point there. There's actually several ways to regulate this little thing. So every single nephron, all 2 million of them, regulate their own efficiency. But see, that also happens at the nephron level, irrespective of all the alcohol stuff and all that, because that's going to affect it out here. So you've got all kinds of adjustments. It's crazy how well these work.
So you're saying the top one will tell the other group of cells that
The bottom ones are just quality control, and the top ones, the vasoconstrictor dilator, because they're deliberately wrapped around the blood vessels. And so I think this picture here, yeah, you can see this picture. Okay, so the area we're talking about is right in here. And on this picture, you see glomerulus, that's the glomerulus. That's your glomerular Bowman's capsule thing. Here's the blood coming in, going out again. Okay, in the blood vessel itself, you see these turquoise-looking cells. That's the top group. And then in the wall of the distal tubule, which is this, you see this group. That's the other, that's the bottom, the white-looking checker one. So these are quality control. They're looking at the pee-pee saying, huh, is it too dark? Is it too thick? How's it doing? And then it'll alter the effect or the activity of these cells to make the urine either thicker or thinner.
That's the purpose of the things so close together.
Yes, absolutely. That's why they're right next to each other. So it's located distal tubule near the glomerulus, site of nephron regulation, quality control. How much pee you making and how fast? Yeah.
Okay, so just a quick review, so when there's too much solids or solids in
Yep.
the cells,
Yep.
they're going to constrict, there's going to be less pressure, because it wants to keep the blood there, to give it more time to filtrate.
No, it's the amount of stuff coming out here is 100% based on the pressure inside the capillary. So if I'm getting too much stuff out here, I'm going to have to turn the faucet off a little bit so I get less stuff. So if there's too much stuff here, what my nephron assumes is if it's too cloudy, there must be too much pressure. So I'm going to turn the faucet down, and that way I get less blood flow, less pressure, less stuff. If there's not enough stuff, I'll open up the faucet, beep, 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 and I'll get more blood, which gives me more pressure, more stuff.
So is it just primarily that section right here that is the
But just this group right here is the juxtaglomerular apparatus.
Okay, so the first one, the top ones, are called the juxtaglomerular cells.
Yes.
What about the bottom?
These are called macular densin. I haven't given those words to you yet, but I will. Yeah.
We will need to know.
Yeah, I'll get those to you in a bit. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm easy. I like explaining the philosophy or the concept, the physiology behind it. It makes total sense. And then for the vocabulary, which is much stuff the water you gotta do.
She was asking the same thing I was.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, they have different names separately, but I'll get that.
Kind of hard to write when you're saying this and that.
Yeah.
So since they have different names, are they both the apparatus now?
Together, they're both the apparatus.
Oh.
Separately, we have the juxtaglomerular cell. Most people, like the cool people at the bar, will just call these JG cells. So you can get away with that. While you're eating your peanuts, you're like, hey, you know what the JG cells do, my friend? And they're like, oh, cool. You know the ways of the kidney. So, what the JG cells are is highly modified smooth muscle cells in the capillary wall. So, okay. Now they release a chemical when stressed, and that chemical is called renin. Stick that in your hat somewhere. We'll get to back into it later. Renin's awesome. Oh man, and we mentioned it briefly once, and you may not remember. That's okay. But mainly juxtaglomerular cells are just simply muscle, the muscle wall of the capillary. That's it. Okay, they're going to adjust how much blood flow goes through, and blood flow equals stuff. So if you allow more blood, you're going to get more pressure, more stuff. If you allow less blood, then you get less pressure, less stuff.
So those cells control the pressure.
Those cells absolutely control blood flow through the capillaries, which is the pressure. So that 10 millimeters of mercury pressure I mentioned, but don't memorize, they're adjusting that. They're trying to keep it perfect at 10. So if your blood pressure goes up, let's say you're picking up something heavy or wrestling your sister or something, the JG cells are going to whip down a bit. Saying, okay, that's too much for the glomerulus. And then you take a nap, you lay down, you're chilling. Well, they're going to open up a bit to make sure. They're trying to keep the pressure in the glomerulus constant. That's their key. Not up, not down, anything. Just one perfect middle blood pressure. So specifically, these modified smooth muscle cells in the walls are called juxtaglomerular cells. The other cells are called macula densa cells. Those are the ones in the distal tubule. Macula densa means dense pigmented. And what it was is in the microscope, when you look at them, it looks like there's kind of a dark spot on the distal tubule here. And so you see a dark spot right here in the distal tubule, so they called it macula densa. Then later they found out, oh my goodness, it senses the how much is in the filtrate. It's an osmo detector, is what they call it. So, yeah.
Control part.
Yes, exactly. These are the sensors. They're the evaluators. And these guys actually do the work. They're the ones that open and close the valve. So think of these guys as the inspectors with the clipboards, and then these guys up here are the ones with the hand on the valve itself, and they're adjusting the flow. And the term for how much stuff is in fluid, you've got several terms. There's like optical density and things. But when you talk about kidneys, a lot of times you talk about osmolarity, which I'll talk about later. That's just telling you how much stuff's in it. If you have a high osmolarity, you got a lot of stuff in it. If you have a low osmolarity, you got a little bit of stuff in it. Crazy. Cool. Any question on that? Yeah.
So only the juxtaglomerular cells can release the renin, not the other one?
Correct. I'll go yes. The JU cells release the renin.
Okay.
And the only one take it.
This is directly outside of the glomerular capsule, right?
Yes. They are part of the vascular walls. They're part of that incoming capillary. So they're actually modified smooth muscle cells in the walls of the vessel itself. So they're more associated with the blood vessels than they are with the glomerular capsule.
The ones that reaches that point is now urine. Is it urine?
Ah, good. No, good question. It's not technically urine until it's in a collecting duct. So even here, it's still filtrated. Because it's checking, you're right, it's checking the consistency of it. But still, when it's out here, you can still vastly change what's in it at this point. So it's set to know what it should look like at that point, even though it's going to change a lot out here. So on a single nephron level, these cells regulate that single nephron. When you're talking about body-wide level, this is where your body adjusts it. The chemicals from your body, hormones, adjust what's in out here. So you've got two levels of control. You got at the nephron level, you got the whole entire body control. Because if you're stressed, your blood pressure is going to go up. When your kidneys are going to release a chemical to try to drop your blood pressure. But if you're really stressed, your sympathetic will fire back and say, screw you kidneys, I'm not going to do it. And so what your sympathetic will do is constrict the renal artery, but it's not going to let the kidneys do anything else. And so there's actually quite a war going on. It's very cool. Yeah.
When it says that the women's can go back here,
Yeah. ones your body produces naturally.
So
Tonight, you're gonna
hormones
sleep.
again, and then that's when it takes place, so it's almost on its way out.
No, the hormones are in your blood, and so all these cells are bathed in blood. So tonight when you go to bed, you're gonna stop drinking water while you're sleeping, presumably. So you'll be making urine at a normal rate, but after a few moments, your body's gonna realize, I'm not taking in water. Oh. So your body's gonna say, we need to start conserving water. So what your body will do is release vasopressin, ADH, and your pituitary releases vasopressin in the blood, and that hormone will go through your entire body. But what that hormone will eventually do is it's going to start affecting this tube. And what it's literally going to do, it's going to make these cells go to their DNA, find the gene on how to make what's called an aquaporin, a water channel. And so tell these cells to start making new channels. And you're going to start inserting these little aquaporins in the walls because of the hormone in your blood. And what will happen then, as this liquid comes through, more water will leak out. And so you're going to start taking more water back into your blood, and that way you get less water here. And so your urine will become more and more concentrated, darker and darker. And so when you wake up and you take a whiz, there's very little water in your urine, relatively speaking, because you took it all back to the tube. And that's because the vasopressin is in your blood.
So there's only hormones that affect the actual urine system, that business?
Right, yeah, just the specific ones for this. Like ADH, cortisol to some extent, aldosterone, absolutely, those all affect it. Antidiuretic hormone from the heart, that affects that too. Yeah, so there's some specific nephron-directed hormones that we make, and that would be the blood.
And mine is missing something, is there a slide on the low part? I don't see it.
Well, I'm going to get all of that later.
Okay.
When we get to regulation, which is at the very end of all this stuff, that'll be next. Yeah.
So the remedy affects the dilation?
Not so much. No, the dilation constriction is the juxtavenous cell's attempt to fix it on its own. If that fails, it's put on renin. A renin affects the entire body. It makes your whole entire blood pressure.
Stop her.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. That's what renin does. Check it. Right. All right, we have your scantron, and then we'll go over a couple questions, and then I'll be in. Grisham, Christina Culbertson, Kyle Robertson, Megan Cambridge, Rebecca Duffy, David James, Jessica Mitchell, Jeremy Tyler, Errol